Welcome, Libra rising to your April 2023 monthly astrological forecast. I'm Sparkles of Gold, aka Nicolas Polymonacos, my beautiful Venus ruled Libra friend. I have some things to talk to you about this month. Let's start it off here with April 3rd, which is the planet Mercury is going to enter a fellow sign, Venus ruled sign Taurus, and Mercury is going to slow down in this earth organic raw sensual place of Taurus and want to slow down its thinking process. It wants to go at a certain pace. It just left Aries, your opposite sign, and it was going really fast and pushing its agenda. But here Mercury slows down in the sign of Taurus. What does this mean for you, my Libra rising? It means that where this is happening is what they call the 8th house in astrology. And this is prevalent for you, not just for the month of April, but going into May. Typically, traditionally, old school wise, the 8th house dealt with death and inheritances and taxes, they call it. In a more modern sense, we deal with intimacy and the occult. There's a bunch of different ways of looking at this, but it's not necessarily about death, but metaphorically it could be. And I'll explain this and flesh this out the farther we go into the video, and you will see why. Now, that happens on April 3rd, Mercury's ingress and entering Taurus. On April 5th is huge. It's a huge day in the month because we have a full moon that happens in the sign of Libra. This is happening to you, to everything that you're about, this full moon. And it's the full moon of the year. Libra gets one full moon of the year. It's going to happen during the Aries birthdays, right? So this is everything to you. In a sense, if you think about what a full moon does, where the luna and its light shines its light on the shadows, and the shadows are exposed. This is where it's happening. But not only is it happening to you, which is your core will and self, your physical body, your vitality, how you view and enter the world, how the world sees you. Not only is it happening there, but it's connected to the opposite part of the chart, which deals with relationships. Your life, Libra, relationships, right? And that part of your chart is the Aries part of your chart. So we have the Aries sun is there, but not only is it there, but Jupiter has been there since the beginning of the year. And it's going to end in May. Jupiter's been in Aries, but Chiron in Aries has been there. And if you know a little bit about astrology, you know, especially in the last month, there's been wounds that have been exposed and been having to be dealt with in the relationship part of your chart. First of all, it starts with the relationship to yourself, and then everything that you relate to outside of that. People, intimate people, the colors on your wall, and anything through your senses, how you relate to the world in general. This full moon is exposing your relationships. And so for you, I want you to pay attention, if you haven't already here for the first part of this year, about certain type of relational stories that have been happening in your life and what has been put up on the table. And this full moon exposes it. And it's actually can start off maybe a little sore and tender, but I think there's an opportunity here to branch and to take both sides, which you like to do. Take both sides, the Libra side, the Aries side, your relationship house, the Libra side, you, and bring those sides together, see what needs to be discussed, and then put them together. And this is a theme for you this month. So that full moon is a big chapter in it. And there's another one down the line. But before we do that, on April 10th, Venus, which rules you, leaves the sign of Taurus where it was loving it. It was indulging in its senses in the sweet, beautiful spring garden, tasting honey, listening to the music, slowing down, being lazy, indulging in the good things in life like we like to do, like you like to do, my Libra friend, in your way too. Venus leaves the sign of Taurus and enters your fellow air sign of Gemini, where now Venus is relating in many different ways, in many different groups, and in many different situations. But this happens in the part of your world that deals with how you take in truth and what truth means to you. And another way of putting this is your code, your ethical code, like what you stand by, what your truths are, what your highest truth is what is it based off of? How did you come to your truth and your ethics and how you stand in that place? And a lot of times we acquire truth and we learn about the truths that we bring to ourselves and stand in by studying and learning other people's truths, by philosophizing with ourselves or with other people, by going to school, by taking workshops, by finding a mentor, by traveling in different places. We see how different things are done and different truths are exposed in other people, other cultures. These are examples of what happens in the ninth house they call in astrology, and Venus is entering that place, and it's your Gemini place. So there's many different viewpoints and many different truths for you to look upon. Hold that thought, because I'm going to bring that back here to help you out later here in this video. When we get to the 19th, which is 2 weeks after the full moon that happens in your sign Libra, we have a major lunation. 2 weeks after the full moon is the new moon in Aries, and it happens in your relationship house. And not only is it happening there, but there's a solar eclipse happening, and it's huge. This month, with you and Aries especially, is so fundamentally huge on a life-shifting kind of way. And even if it doesn't seem that way event-wise, the seeds are planted for change in how you deal with yourself and in relationships, and how relationships are reflected back towards you. This solar eclipse is going to bring an influx of energy and a sucking out of energy possibly at the same time. There's a lot of movement and doors closing and doors opening in your relationship house. And this goes back to what I talked about, sore wounds and Jupiter in Aries and Chiron in Aries, and how these certain pieces and wounds that you might have found that you've been nurturing and looking at and debating over and weighing out with yourself and other people is another opportunity for it to come together again, to find a new way of moving forward in how you stand in relationship to yourself and how you stand in relationship to the world and to other people. So you got a full moon and a solar eclipse in the month that bring the shifts here. And so I don't think you're ever going to forget this month for a while. And even if it doesn't seem dramatic, it sets off a 6-month story, because 6 months from this point in time, there's going to be other eclipses in the same places here. And then you're going to start to notice the storyline if you haven't noticed it already. But you're all sharp about relationship politics, my Libra friend. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. When we get to the 21st of April, that planet Mercury that deals with communications and how things get from point A to point B that I mentioned earlier, that happens in the house of intimacy, other people's resources, the death place, not saying there's going to be death place, is going to go backwards. Mercury is going to be moving forward the whole month and stop in Taurus and go backwards for 3 weeks for a Mercury retrograde. And after that 3 weeks, it's going to move forward. The retrograde ends in May 15th. So you could see now how Mercury, the way you communicate, is going to be a major factor for the whole month of April and into May. And it happens in this area in your chart that deals with the deeper secrets of things, the occult matters, things that are connected to other people's resources, wills, death, inheritances. Those are like the old school ways. But I'm going to up the game here for a way, in a sense, for you. Because if I look to that part of your chart, and it's the Taurus part of your chart, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, I'm going to go follow and find where Venus is in the sky for the month of April and May. And so we go back to where Venus in Gemini is in your chart. And it's the part of your chart that deals with your highest truth. So I want you to meditate on what I'm about to tell you. I want you to see what your relationship is to mortality and death and to resources, how those things are connected, and how it's connected to your philosophy and to your code. So if we're going to contemplate this month about like what your truth is and what other people's truths are and how you incorporate those or you don't, what that means, I want you to take the extra step to see of what it means when it becomes on an intimate matter. There's the whole thing about your truth in the world and relating to social groups in general. But let's just say scenario-wise, it deals with something deeper than that, a deeper relationship, a deeper type of connection, and the intimacy that's involved and what is shared in that place. And that's where I think a lot of insight and movement can happen for you. And it can happen during this Mercury retrograde. And eventually, you'll have things to say, things to formulate when it comes to this theme and narrative that I'm talking about. And I want you to speak your truth. Sometimes in the Libra world, they won't speak the truth in the way because they're afraid of disrupting the harmony that's created in relationships. But sometimes you have to speak your truth in a way where you take care of yourself. You don't just think and weigh out other people's opinions and what they have to say first. You have to put yourself first here. You don't have to do it like the Aries does it sometimes, bursting through the door with your words and being caustic. You could still be Venus ruled here and find the right words and the style and tact in saying it. But I want you to go deep. I don't want you to be surface level. We want to hear your truth. You feel me? All right, my Libra friend.